They're not interested in actually informing the people anymore. And I don't say that lightly. When I say that the media is the enemy of the people, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I don't say that lightly because I know that that was actually something that was voiced by Stalin about the media of his day. But I also think that it's fair and legitimate to say it at this point in time about the media that is right now operating in America, especially because they do not wish to actually tell the truth. And this is no clearer the case than what just took place in the Colorado Springs shooter that shot up that gay nightclub. Now, I want to move away from the Balenciaga thing for just a moment to focus on this story because I think it shows us something that is very interesting. Not only does it shine a light on the LGBTQ community and kind of what we do in terms of talking about that, but it also shines a light on the fact that the media isn't interested in telling the truth. And so that shooter, when it first came out, when the story first came out that shooter had killed 5 people at an LGBTQ nightclub, we immediately were bombarded with almost every single outlet, publication, and network telling us that the reason that this white male shot up a LGBTQ nightclub was, of course, because he was a right-wing extremist. I'm sure that if we looked hard enough, you'll be able to find in the surveillance video footage a MAGA hat on that kid somewhere. We were told that the likes of Matt Walsh and Christopher Rufo, Ben Shapiro, and the Daily Wire, and others like them, libs of TikTok, of course, is named in everything. It's because of these people exposing what the LGBTQ community is up to and sounding the alarm on the Respect for Marriage Act and drag queen story hour at schools and family-friendly brunch drag shows. Because they have a problem with this, they're creating violence against this marginalized community. Didn't we tell you guys it's family-friendly? It's on the flyer. You don't believe us? So the narrative surrounding this shooting was simply that anybody who causes an issue or raises concern over obese middle-aged men gyrating in front of children and reading books about sexual orientation to elementary schoolers, anybody that's doing that obviously is a bigot and is responsible for any violence that comes out. Now, this is clearly an emotional blackmail technique, and one that I've seen personally. Whenever you want to sound the alarm against something that is a clear evil, the people who wish to push you away as quickly as possible from your stance will try to extort you and emotionally blackmail you with lies and tears. But if you're strong enough to push past that nonsense, what you'll find on the other side of that is just somebody that is clearly lying. And this is what the media did. They immediately jumped on the response that anybody who ever critiques anything in society that we like will be the focus of media scrutiny and media attention, negative media attention at that, of course. And so that's what they did. They ran with this story without any evidence of this shooter being a right-wing extremist. They just automatically assumed, and because they don't believe in God by and large, they become God. So what they say must be right. Well, one big problem that threw a monkey wrench in the whole program, the young man came out as a MX, not a Mr. or a Mrs., but an MX, and that he goes by they and them pronouns. Now, watching the media experience this reversal of fortune here was absolutely epic. So CNN is probably the one that was the most fun to watch as they squirmed trying to sort through the confounding narrative that they had created, or the confounding of their narrative because of the one that they tried to create at the beginning of this ordeal and the one that they're forced now with reconciling based upon what this guy said when the actual information came out. So here's CNN squirming to try to figure out what to do now that they cannot blame Republicans.
Public defenders say, quote, Anderson Aldrich is non-binary. They use they, them pronouns. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's not anything that we had heard from his background. You know, people have been looking into his background. And I don't know if anybody here, are you guys lawyers? I mean, you know, I don't know if, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's what he's now saying.
Now, the reason I find this incredibly hilarious is not just that it's really interesting to see the news media meandering around and losing their way, but more importantly, because they've been deprived of their narrative. They can't blame Republicans, and it absolutely galls them that they can't blame Republicans because this is what they live for. How can they get clickbait without blaming people that actually didn't do anything? It's really frustrating when they actually have to do real work, and I just love seeing these reporters squirm. Now, the reason that they're deprived of their narrative is the most epic part of this, though. They cannot blame Republicans because they cannot suggest that this individual is just calling himself they, them, because he wants to get away with part of the accusation that he's doing this as a hate crime, because he can just say, well, I'm part of that community, so I don't hate that community. But they can't suggest that on CNN. Why? Because for the longest time, they've been pioneering the narrative that we must respect the pronoun, that everyone's self-identity is where true authority comes from. There is no standard source of truth. And I mean, after all, Jesus would be the marshal at the gay pride parade. We all know that, right? Because self-identity is truth, not Bible, right? The reason they can't get their narrative back is they've deprived themselves from their narrative because they've doubled down on stupid in terms of this whole LGBTQ activism thing in the first place. So they cannot suggest for a second that this guy is lying, because you have to respect the pronoun. And because of it, they find themselves having little to say now about what took place with the Colorado shooter. In fact, what they are doing is, of course, you can imagine, he was first a hated ultra-MAGA right-wing extremist that deserved no sympathy because he's a despicable human being. But now that he's potentially in the LGBTQ community, well, of course, this is a man that deserves our respect, and he was clearly bullied by these despicable people that we hate, and that's why he shot people. So you find a way to confirm your bias one way or the other, don't you? Confirmation bias is something that happens so consistently on the media, it's almost not even surprising anymore. But all of that to just prove this, that the media, I think is safe to say, the legacy media anyway, is truly the enemy of the people. They don't have your best interests at heart. They only want to sell airtime, and they want to peddle lies. And in the process, deceive people. And they don't have your best interests at heart because they don't want to tell the truth. So you cannot trust them. All that to say this, you cannot trust them to sound the alarm, to do real investigative journalism on things like what is going on with Balenciaga and this company that would do this photo shoot for Balenciaga and put this kind of wicked, twisted, and sick photography on display, but then also try to put subtle images about child pornography in their photo shoot. So the media is not going to sound the alarm. So who is? Well, the only people that can are you and me. In some ways, I'm not distressed about what's going on in the world as much as I am optimistic that I hope that this will help us realize that if corporations and the media and other institutions are going to go woke, then it gives the responsibility back to us as individuals to take a stand. And once we do it, and once we do it in a united front, we don't even have to do it in a big kind of bombastic fashion. We don't have to do it with a big organization behind us. We just have to do it, and we have to do it standing upon the principle of truth. And if we do it, we can make a difference. I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. I hate social media, but I reluctantly admit that social media here gets the win because people were willing to use their platform to make a difference. And this is one of the ways that you can make a difference too. You don't have to start an organization, but you can share posts and you can comment on posts, not just as a troll, but as a way to expose what is going on in the world. When things need to be known and things need to be uncovered, you can use your social media platform to do it. In fact, you can also go to other people who are doing that. You can like their stuff and you can share their stuff. You can do that with Indie Thinker. And you can support the people who are standing for truth so that you can use your platform as something for good. Now, listen, I'm not saying don't post pictures of your kids or don't post pictures of what you ate for breakfast that morning, fine, whatever. But just don't post pictures of your feet, for crying out loud. Just please don't.
So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely need to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.